You are welcome along to Monday night's football show. We're with you until 10 o'clock. John Broome will join us for a chat this hour to reflect on the weekend's Premier League action. We'll be luxuriating in the greatness of Aston Villa with John Broome and John Broome only at that point, because we've done so much of it in the news round earlier, Mick.
But I want to talk more on.
Yeah. One of the things that we have been doing pretty much every Monday since last month is checking in on our two great strikers, Troy Parrott watch, Evan Ferguson watch, and the hits keep on coming. Troy Parrott is home. He was one of the people that was spotted in arrivals in Dublin Airport today, Mick.
He's got a winter break. He scores a goal yesterday, wraps up a fine 2025 of football for young Troy. And then I don't know if anybody else spotted him, but the bit of media that I saw was RTE's intrepid reporter Brenda Donoghue, who's been doing this for many years now, goes to the airport at Christmas to see people coming home and gets their stories, and out pops Troy Parrott out of arrivals. So she quickly gets over there like a good reporter and gets a few words with Troy, I think. So he's home for Christmas, and what a Christmas he has earned.
Absolutely. We have Ben Symes here in studio with us as
Winter
well.
breaks in football, by the way.
I mean, great
I
for
wouldn't like
him
to not be watching the football, but if you're a player, I'd say that's pretty good, isn't it? You get to come home.
I mean, it seems like I think he's got an amazing life right now, Troy Parrott, to be fair, and I think that any sort of suggestion that he might want to move to a tougher division or anything like that, why would you? He's having a great time home for Christmas and everything. On the flip side then is Evan Ferguson. So Roma away to Juventus on Saturday. Evan Ferguson comes on after 56 minutes. I presume he didn't actually play well. I didn't watch this. I've let myself down here in terms of my Roma watching of late. I actually didn't watch the second half, but you can tell from afterwards, Ben, that Gasperini was not happy with his performance.
Yeah, it's pretty damning quotes. I am not convinced was the headline from Gasperini when he gets asked about him, and then he goes a little bit more in depth on him and says, if I had to choose between Paulo Dybala and Ferguson, I choose Dybala all day, every day. You need more to be a centre forward than being tall. It's not about technique. He hasn't settled into the spirit of this team.
See, we think that there's been some sort of lost in translation aspects to the Gasperini quotes recently, but I think there's no muddiness about this whatsoever. It's very, very clear what Gasperini thinks of Evan Ferguson, and it's not good. You are tall, and that's all you have going for you.
Spirit of the team as well is something that's worrying, But again, it's like, I don't know. It seems to be very, very turbulent and constantly changing when it comes to Gasperini. Is he just an angry manager? Is he just someone who comes out and goes, "Oh, that wasn't exactly what I wanted," and rants about it in a press conference, and then comes in on Monday and says, "Don't worry, you were fine. Yeah, you've a bit to work on."
It feels that this is just an incessant thing at the moment. It also feels that the amount of kind of conversation around Evan Ferguson from Gasperini and from everybody in the setup now is actually off the charts. We were obsessed with him.
Why are they talking about him so much?
But it seems that our appetite is certainly being stated by the Italian media. Maybe there's like a closer relationship there. Maybe they do more media. I know certainly more people at the football club offer themselves forward for interviews, for example. You'd hear from the sporting director before a match, as well as say the manager. So there is all of that at play. But then there's also the fact that it seemed that Ferguson had actually got himself back into the good books. He had almost proved himself. He was man of the match last week. He scored that brace against Celtic. How was it turned so quickly again? Was his performance that abject on Saturday?
You see, this is what I'm saying. I always think with these things, and again, from talking to one or two people who would tell you that the Gasperini-Ferguson relationship is different than what appears in these quotes, I do often wonder what the full context is. Is Gasperini out there defending the fact that he didn't play a striker? So when Ferguson came on, they're 1-0 down, Dybala was playing as the false nine. They didn't play a forward. So is his comment there about the fact that what Dybala offers is what we needed and not, and it comes out worse than it is. I do realise I'm clutching, and I do realise that we hear those translated comments and it sounds like this guy absolutely hates him, but it doesn't wash with the amount of appearances he's having and how if they've given up on him, they do what Emery has done to Harvey Elliott. He's playing all the time. He scored 2 against Celtic, man the match in the next game, and gets brought on early enough he gets brought. They're 1-0 down. They lose 2-1, they equalise and go 2-1 down. So it's like they bring him on to save the game, so it's not as if they've given up on him.
The comments about if they're mud or not, you can probably fair enough with the first bit, the Dybala of Ferguson, but the second part where he says you need more to be a centre forward than just being tall.
I know.
And then the spirit of the team thing, like, did you watch when he scored the goals a couple of weeks ago? His first goals in Serie A, and he runs over to the corner and he kind of makes a little shushing gesture, but then all the players run over to him and they're all delighted for him. Someone's kissing him on the forehead, like. To not buy into the spirit of the team, and then what you see on the pitch when he does score, and it was the same up in Celtic. You can't mud those sort of quotes up. Like, if he has said he's not fitting in with the team, like, that's not a misinterpretation. Like, he has said that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
There's reports today in Sky Sports Italy that Napoli are interested in signing Evan Ferguson in January, were he to leave Roma.
Yeah, I saw this. So Lorenzo Luca signed for Napoli from Udinese for 30 million somewhere, and he scored one goal basically all season. And he's added to Roma's list of, they obviously wanted real top goal scorers. Joshua Zirkzee and Lorenzo Luca are the two top names that they're on the hunt for. And they, proposed this weird move where Brighton would recall Ferguson and then he'd go to Napoli and Luca would go to Roma. I don't understand this at all.
Would he be? Oh yeah, it's a calendar year thing, isn't it? So he would be allowed to sign for a new club.
He could sign for a new club, but
Okay.
I mean, I don't understand the Roma point of view. Like, why would you ditch Ferguson?
Can you go on two different loans in the same year?
You can go on two different zones.
The thing is, like, Elliot can't. Sorry, I don't have to bring it back to that, but obviously, just thinking of a failed loan move, Elliot can only go back to Liverpool. He can't sign for another club.
Did he play for Liverpool before he joined Villa? Because you're only allowed to play for two clubs,
Right, okay.
So if he made an appearance in a League Cup type of thing,
Ferguson
yeah,
hasn't
but
played
Ferguson
for
can
Brighton.
anyway. Besides the point, but I just don't understand it at all. Joshua Zirkzee and Lorenzo Luca. I get Zirkzee is Serie A proven when he was with Bologna and Parma. But for Ferguson to go to Napoli, where Lukaku's injured, Højlund is very clear the number one right now. You've got Scott McTominay bursting behind you. I would not get behind that move at all.
One of the things we're going to discuss with John Bruin a little later on is the abject nature of Wolves' season, and just they're on course to match Derby County and actually just really write a whole new record in terms of how bad a team can be in the Premier League. But this has got a distinct Irish angle on it at this point. We've got that Matt Doherty interview after the game on Saturday, which was pretty extraordinary. And what we now have is a new chapter on that today, where Martin O'Neill was speaking on TalkSport. And I kind of forgotten because I was so focused on Martin O'Neill versus Keith Andrews that there was other potential beef in this Wolves versus Brentford game that involves Martin O'Neill. So Martin O'Neill speaking on TalkSport today about Matt Doherty. Have a listen.
If I was Rob Edwards, the manager, I wouldn't listen to a word that Matt was saying. You know, Matt wants to do, he's a brilliant talker, really, really good talker. He wants to do a bit more play, and personally speaking, I think that's one of like self-absolvement, So when you do plenty of talking like that there as a player, generally speaking, there's not that much behind it all. And Matt is a very, very good talker, wants to do a bit more play, take responsibility, genuinely do look in the mirror. Players who do plenty of talking and then just, you talk the talk, you have to walk the walk.
Yeah, so Matt Doherty claimed he was called a tosser by O'Neill, arising from a radio interview he did on the same day where O'Neill and Roy Keane were sacked.
So you don't hear much more anymore.
For the FAI in 2018. Was this with us, that interview? Or was it was on 2FM actually, I think.
Was it? Okay.
I think it was, I don't think it was us, but he said it wasn't a nice fall at all and he hung up on me. I don't imagine it was, according to Matt Doherty, if you were called a tosser. But, geez, this is, we've been gifted with all these Martin O'Neill stories this year.
Compared to all the nice times that you're called a tosser,
Yeah.
The O'Neill stuff is just hilarious. The bit where, he says, I think you've had some bad interactions, Doherty. And he says, not necessarily, but yeah. Like, it's like O'Neill loves to just throw the boot in whenever anyone's at the first down. I kind of do get his point, though. If you are bottom of the league on 2 points, and like Doherty is the club captain, to be the club captain and to be coming out kind of throwing shots left, right, not left, right and centre, but coming out and having a pop, I think.
I have to say, I don't know necessarily if that is how I would look at it. I think that you're at a point now where Wolves are in desperation mode, and I think you need to come out and say something, like, as in challenge it in some way. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But what have you got to lose? Like, do you know what I mean? I don't know if him, like, not taking that interview and saying, it's all, the lads are working hard, and especially if he doesn't think they are, especially if he does think that there's lads looking for a lifeboat in January, or they're looking, I think it's worth saying it. I know, I can understand there is another point of view, yours and Martin O'Neill's, that it's like, this isn't me, this isn't my fault, this is about the lads who want out and I'm separate from that. Can I still be a Wolves legend, please? I get that. I just don't think that's what this is.
No. like there's also the thing at play here as well, is that Matt Doherty's been involved with this club. Not like continuously, but he's been involved with this club for a very, very long time. I think he does care very deeply about this club, and because he's part of the furniture there relative to the rest of the squad, I think he probably does care a little bit more than the rest of the squad, or that there's a case to be made that he does. So I don't know, you can say what you want, but by the same token, Martin O'Neill is also entitled to deliver radio gold on TalkSport. Just one thing we wanted to touch on as well, and we'll touch on that again with John later on, is just Liverpool versus Tottenham. Ben, you've been keeping a close eye on how Tottenham fans have been chatting about Christian Romero.
Yeah, a lot of the backlash has been against Romero, very, very understandably. And Thomas Frank comes out and Thomas Frank says, if John Brooks did his job, Romero wouldn't have been sent off, which is an absolutely ridiculous statement to come out with. I mean, if anything, if Christian Romero had kept his mouth shut and didn't let, arrogance or frustration, whatever it is, seep to the fore, Christian Romero wouldn't have been sent off.
Yeah.
To be named club captain at the start of the season, I remember the quotes at the time said, there's no better man at Spurs to lead us forward. He has every redeeming quality that you want in a captain. You could tell from 2 minutes into that game on Saturday that Christian Romero was going to be in trouble, whether he was going to pick up a yellow card, which is already a definite, or he was going to be sent off when Ekitike bundled him off the ball. And he gets a little shove in the back for the Ekitike goal. And right, it's fair enough you chalk complaint of, but to be in the rest face for so long as the club captain, you give him no choice but to give him a yellow card. To be already on a yellow card and lash out in the dying minutes when you're chasing the draw is just petulant.
I can actually see why he is the best choice to be Spurs captain, but you have to say this is going to happen twice a season.
Yeah,
and it's
at a minimum,
and you take that into account, and you sort of say, right, is that worth it or not? I don't know, but you can see why he is like the leader in the dressing room and the talisman of effort and passion and everything that you want. But this happens too often. We were just talking outside about the Chelsea, the famous, infamous Chelsea game with the
9 men,
with the 9 men and the high line and everything like that. But that was one of the most, just like head loss sending offs I've ever seen. And Saturday night was much more harmless, but it was still a head loss. It was like a ridiculous thing to do.
Yeah, we will touch on the Isak story as well with John Bruin after the break. So Aston Villa, we'll be coming back to Aston Villa. We'll be talking about the title race, coming back to Wolves as well. So loads to discuss with John Bruin after the break.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by William Hill. Download the app and play today. 18 plus gamblingcare.ie.
This is News Talk.